Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're diving into Bill Gates's early years.
Like way before Microsoft, before the billions.
Exactly, yeah, before all of that.
Kind of a sneak peek into the beginning of the whole personal computer thing and even the internet itself.
I love it. Okay, so picture this. It's 1974, and an army truck rolls onto the Harvard campus in the dead of night.
Yeah, it had to be the dead of night, right?
Right.
To avoid any of those anti-war protests.
Oh, right, yeah. Makes sense with the Vietnam War going on.
Right. And get this, they're delivering a disassembled DEC mainframe computer, a PDP-10, straight from Vietnam.
So this piece of military hardware ends up fueling the development of the internet. Ironic much.
Talk about unintended consequences, right? But it was a time when the government, especially DARPA, was pouring money into computer science research.
Okay, so same time, same Harvard. We've got a young Bill Gates, already a total programming whiz.
Oh, yeah, already making a name for himself.
And he somehow talks his way into the Aiken Computation Laboratory, a place mostly for graduate students.
Even though he was just a freshman, Gates was always hungry to get his hands on the latest tech.
I can only imagine what the lab director must have thought when Gates basically said,
I'm not planning on taking any actual computer classes, maybe just some super advanced ones, but I still want to use your fancy computer lab.
Bold move. But I guess he kind of had the experience to back it up.
Oh, for sure. He'd already been part of that Lakeside programming group back in high school.
And didn't he also work at TRW on the power grid?
Yeah, and he even started his own company, Trafo Data.
Wow, already an entrepreneur in high school. I'm sensing a theme here.
Definitely.
Yes.
And get this, he was super into the potential of the microprocessor, this brand new tech that would change everything.
Right, it was like the Wild West of computing back then. So much potential.
Totally. But when Gates tried to explain all this to the lab director, Professor ch10, he just got blank stares.
Awkward. You'd think a computer science professor would be a little more enthusiastic about microprocessors.
Actually, ch10 was a programmer at heart, spent years coding, designing languages. He probably got it more than he let on.
So maybe he was just like, okay, kid, I get it. You're excited, but let me get back to work.
Exactly. The Aiken lab was a unique place, like a hacker's paradise, where brilliant minds could just experiment freely.
So it's like this blend of serious research and just like a freewheeling hacker spirit.
Precisely. A real melting pot of ideas.
Okay, so alongside the fancy PDP-10, they also have this older computer, the PDP-1.
You might think, who cares about old tech? But this thing was crucial for computer graphics.
Huh, so even back then, outdated tech could spark new innovations.
For sure. It makes you wonder what tech we consider obsolete today might actually hold the key to future breakthroughs, right?
That's a great point. So what was so special about the PDP-1?
Well, it played a key role in all sorts of pioneering technologies, things like the first head-mounted virtual reality device.
Whoa, really? Virtual reality back in the 70s?
Yep, and one of the very first flight simulators was developed on the PDP-1, too.
So this outdated machine helped pave the way for the interactive experiences we have now.
Exactly. It's all connected. And these early experiments were happening while Gates was there, soaking it all in.
Did any of that directly influence the work he was doing?
Oh, definitely. Those groundbreaking flight simulator experiments? They were actually connecting multiple computers over ARPANET.
Wait, ARPANET, as in the precursor to the internet?
The one and only.
Yeah.
They were connecting these computers to run the simulations, basically an early vision of networked 3D graphics.
Wow, and this was happening right under Gates's nose. He was witnessing the birth of networking and virtual reality firsthand.
That's right. No wonder he was hooked. And it directly inspired his big project, creating a 3D baseball game.
Hold on, a 3D baseball game in the 70s? That's ambitious.
Oh, he was going all out, using the PDP-1 for the visuals and the PDP-10 for the complex physics calculations.
You wanted multiple camera angles, realistic gameplay, the works. This was beyond just your typical student project.
Absolutely. He was pushing the boundaries of what was possible.
Okay, so we've got this incredible setting, cutting-edge tech, this permissive atmosphere, and all these brilliant minds. But what about Gates's life outside the lab? Was it all just coding, or was there more to his Harvard experience?
Oh, Harvard wasn't just about computers. Even for someone like Gates, he had this diverse group of roommates, each working their way through college.
So even within this Ivy League bubble, there were different realities colliding.
For sure. He had Sam from Montreal, who was working as a janitor.
Wow, working as a janitor while at Harvard, that's dedication.
And then there was Jim, a black engineering student from Tennessee, working weekends at a nearby Air Force base.
It must have been eye-opening for Gates to see these different paths and struggles even within this elite environment.
Definitely broadened his perspective. Now, academically, Gates was taking a mix of challenging courses.
Like what?
He was into Greek classics, he had this independent study in engineering, which led to his baseball simulation, and then there was Math 55.
Ah, yes, Math 55, the legendary weed-out course. I've heard stories about that one.
Oh, it's infamous for a reason. The course description straight up says, students whose interest in mathematics is casual should not elect them.
Yikes. So it's designed to separate the truly hardcore math enthusiasts from the casual math enjoyers.
Exactly. It was a crucible, even for Harvard's brightest. They started with like 80 students, and within the first month, it was down to only 25.
Wow, that's intense. Who were some of the people who survived that mathematical gauntlet?
One of Gates's classmates, Andy Braderman, had actually taught himself algebra in just 3 weeks while recovering from pneumonia back in 6th grade.
Okay, that's next-level math dedication right there.
Talk about a natural talent.
Yeah.
And then there was Jim Sefna, another classmate. He placed in the top 5 at the Math Olympiad when he was just 15.
Wow, these guys were in a whole different league. So even surrounded by these math geniuses, did Gates ever doubt himself?
You know, even in the midst of all the intellectual buzz of Harvard, he started to feel a bit lost, questioning his place,
It's almost like he was realizing that Harvard was just a bigger pond.
Exactly. And then he had this disaster with organic chemistry.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, he thought he could skip class and just rely on the videotaped lectures.
Oh, the classic tale of overconfidence backfiring.
It did not go well. And then there was this awkward encounter with his freshman advisor.
What happened?
Well, the advisor, sensing Gates's unique drive, he called him precocious.
That's not exactly an insult, is it?
No, but at first, Gates took it the wrong way. He associated the word with his mom scolding him for being a brat.
So he thought it was a dig.
Yeah, but as he thought about it more, he realized that maybe he wasn't the absolute best in math, which led to a bit of an identity crisis.
That's got to be humbling, realizing you might not be at the top of the food chain, even when you're surrounded by brilliant minds.
Definitely a reality check.
Oh.
And this all coincided with him thinking more seriously about turning his passion for computers into a career.
So the seeds of Microsoft were already being planted, even while he was struggling with organic chemistry and Math 55.
It's fascinating how all these seemingly random experiences come together, right? Like all these different threads weaving into his journey.
It really shows how life doesn't always follow a straight line. And speaking of unexpected turns, I know Gates eventually teamed up with Paul Allen to start Microsoft, but did he try anything else before taking that leap?
Well, during that spring semester, he got a surprise call. A callback for a job application he'd sent to DEC.
DEC, the company that made those PDP computers he was obsessed with.
That's right. The very same company that delivered that PDP-10 on a truck in the dead of night. Talk about coming full circle.
So he had the chance to work for the company that built the machines that sparked his passion.
Get this, they flew him to their headquarters in a helicopter.
Wow. In 1974, a helicopter ride was a pretty big deal.
Definitely not your average job interview.
No.
Anyway, during the interview, Gates totally impressed the DEC engineers with his deep knowledge of their TOPS-10 operating system.
Sounds like he aced it. Did he take the job?
Nope. They offered it to him on the spot, but he declined.
Really? Why would he turn down a dream job like that?
He saw the interview as validation of his skills, but he had bigger aspirations.
So even with this amazing opportunity, he was already thinking bigger.
He got other job offers that spring, too, even one from General Electric. But he turned them all down.
He was determined to forge his own path.
Absolutely. He knew he wanted to create something truly revolutionary, and he knew he wanted to do it with Paul Allen.
And as luck would have it, as Gates was finishing up his freshman year at Harvard, Paul Allen made a life-changing decision.
He accepted a job offer from Honeywell and moved to Boston to be closer to Gates and dive headfirst into their shared vision.
So the stage was set, the key players were in place, and the personal computer revolution was about to begin.
It was the perfect storm of talent, ambition, and timing.
And from there, things really took off. But we'll save that part of the story for next time.
Stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll explore the wild ride of Microsoft's early years and how these 2 college dropouts changed the world.
It's a story you won't want to miss.
See you then.
Bye. So it's August 1974. Paul Allen's in Boston, ready to jump into this tech venture with Bill Gates. I bet those late-night brainstorming sessions were pretty intense.
Oh, yeah, they were feeding off each other, dissecting the latest tech, just envisioning this future where computers were for everyone, not just for, academics and big corporations.
So it was more than just building computers. It was about this idea that technology could empower people, not just, control them.
Absolutely. They really believed in that. And they knew that software was the key, not just hardware. It was about creating tools that would make these microprocessors accessible and user-friendly.
So they were already thinking about user experience way back then. That's pretty ahead of their time.
Oh, totally. While everyone else was focused on the hardware, Gates and Allen, they understood that it was the software that would determine how people would actually interact with these machines.
It's fascinating to see how their early conversations were like the foundation for Microsoft. Was there like a specific moment that really got things going?
Yeah, the arrival of the Altair 8800 in December 1974, that was a game changer.
The Altair 8800, what was that?
Well, it was the first commercially successful personal computer. It was a kit computer, though. So you had to assemble it yourself, and it was far from user-friendly.
So it was clunky and complicated, but I guess it was like a glimpse into the future.
Exactly. They saw the Altair as a blank slate, a chance to create the software that would make this new type of computer actually useful.
And they knew they had to act fast, right?
Oh, yeah. The race was on.
So did they rush out and buy an Altair to start working on it?
Actually, they didn't even have an Altair to test their software on.
Wait, what? They were just going to wing it.
Pretty much. They contacted M-ITES, the company that made the Altair, and they told them, hey, we've developed a basic interpreter for your machine.
Hold on. They wrote software for a computer they'd never even seen. That's a pretty big gamble.
It was a huge risk.
Yeah.
But they were confident.
Okay, back up for a second. What exactly is a basic interpreter?
BASIC stands for Beginner's All-Purpose Symbolic Instruction Code. It was this programming language that was relatively easy to learn, perfect for making the Altair more accessible to a wider audience.
So they were thinking about accessibility from the very start, but how did they write software for a machine they didn't have?
They used emulators and, their memories of using BASIC on other computers. It was a long shot, but it paid off.
When they finally tested their code on a real Altair, it worked.
Flawlessly first try.
That must have been an amazing feeling, seeing their code come to life on this brand new machine. It's like the ultimate hacker triumph.
Oh, yeah, it was a defining moment.
Oh, right.
And that success with the Altair BASIC interpreter. Well, that was the official birth of Microsoft.
March 1975, Microsoft is born, starting in Albuquerque, New Mexico, near MIMPI's headquarters, a tiny company founded by two college dropouts about to revolutionize the world.
It's mind-blowing when you think about the impact they had. Bringing personal computers into homes and businesses globally.
It's a story of ambition, this relentless pursuit of innovation, and a belief that technology could actually change the world.
For the better.
Absolutely. But Microsoft wasn't built by just Gates and Allen, right? They needed a team to make this vision a reality. How did they approach building that early team?
Well, they knew that building a successful company wasn't just about writing great code. It was about creating an environment where brilliant minds could thrive and work together.
So they were looking for people who could bring different skills and perspectives to the table.
Right. And they weren't afraid to recruit people who were even smarter than them.
That's a sign of a great leader, knowing your own limitations and surrounding yourself with people who can fill those gaps.
Exactly. And they fostered this culture of open communication, where ideas could be freely exchanged and everyone had a voice.
So it was like a meritocracy of ideas. The best idea wins no matter where it comes from.
That was the idea.
Yeah.
But as you can imagine, trying to maintain that kind of freewheeling environment while also building a structure to support rapid growth, it was a balancing act.
It must have been challenging. As Microsoft's influence grew, did they face any pushback or controversy?
Oh, for sure. As they gained more market share, some people accused them of being anti-competitive. They had to deal with legal battles and scrutiny from regulators.
So they were pioneers, but they were also navigating the complexities of becoming a dominant force in a rapidly changing industry.
And their partnership was put to the test, too. As the company grew, Gates and Allen's different personalities and leadership styles started to create some friction.
That makes sense. The pressure was immense and the stakes were getting higher. It's hard to imagine any partnership surviving that kind of growth unchanged.
That was a lot to handle.
Yeah.
And then in the early 1980s, Paul Allen was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, wow. That's awful.
It was a huge blow. He had to step away from the company to focus on his health.
I can only imagine how difficult that must have been for him to leave the company he helped build at such a crucial time.
It was a major turning point for both of them, and for Microsoft. Allen's vision and technical brilliance have been essential to the company's success.
Even though he wasn't directly involved anymore, I bet his influence was still felt.
Oh, absolutely. His legacy continued to shape Microsoft's direction. And for Gates, well, he was now at the helm of this tech giant, navigating a complex landscape without his longtime partner.
That's a lot of weight on one person's shoulders.
Yeah.
He had to make some tough decisions and adapt to the changing circumstances.
He did what he had to do. And as Gates led Microsoft into the 1990s, the company just kept innovating. They were expanding into new markets, developing groundbreaking technologies, and solidifying their position as a global powerhouse.
This is where we really see the emergence of the Microsoft we know today.
Right, the Microsoft that would become synonymous with personal computing.
And that's where we'll pick up next time on the deep dive. Okay, so we've seen Microsoft go from this, tiny two-man operation to a major player in the tech world. But it doesn't end there.
Huh.
Bill Gates, now at the helm, he's about to take Microsoft to a whole other level.
Yeah, even as he becomes this, global tech icon, he never really loses sight of that original vision. Making technology accessible, empowering people through software.
He was always pushing the boundaries, wasn't he? Think about Windows 95. It wasn't just another operating system. It totally changed how people used computers.
Oh, yeah. Windows 95 was a huge deal. User-friendly interface, intuitive design. It made computers less scary for the average person.
And it came out right as the internet was taking off. Perfect timing.
Exactly. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be connected and Microsoft was ready.
They created Internet Explorer, which for a lot of people was the way to get online back in the day with those dial-up modems.
Remember those sounds? That screeching and beeping?
Yeah.
It's like the soundtrack to the early internet.
Takes me back. It really feels like that whole era, the dawn of the internet, was what Gates and Allen had pictured all those years ago.
Connecting people, democratizing information, empowering individuals globally. It was a big deal.
And it's interesting how even as Gates is leading Microsoft to these crazy heights, he starts thinking about the bigger picture.
Yeah, he realizes that technology's impact goes way beyond, just business.
What do you mean?
He starts thinking about the ethical side of things. How technology could be used to tackle global problems like poverty, disease, inequality.
So it wasn't just about profits anymore.
Right. He wanted to make a real difference. And that's what leads to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Founded in 2000, right?
Yep. And it quickly becomes a major force in philanthropy, Gates, using his wealth and influence to try to solve some of the world's toughest problems.
It's a pretty amazing shift from this, ruthless tech mogul to someone dedicating himself to giving back and making a positive impact.
It shows that even the most successful people in tech can be driven by something bigger than themselves.
It's a good lesson for all of us.
Yeah.
I think technology can be this incredibly powerful tool for good, but it's up to us to use it wisely and responsibly.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think the story of Bill Gates and the rise of Microsoft, it shows the power of vision, the importance of collaboration, and just how fast technology can change.
It's mind-blowing to think that all of this, the personal computer, the internet, global philanthropy, it all goes back to those early days at Harvard, tinkering with computers, dreaming of a different future.
And it all started with that spark, that belief that things could be better. It's a reminder that we can shape our own futures, even with all the challenges and rapid changes happening around us.
It's a call to action. Embrace curiosity, be bold, and never underestimate the power of a single idea.
I love that. So to all our listeners out there, keep diving deep, keep exploring, and keep dreaming big. Who knows what amazing things you might create.
The future is yours to shape.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the early days of the tech revolution.